What's going on, everybody? It's your boy JimmyJames59, and I have a video that I'm really excited to share with you today. And I just want to give a little bit of a preamble about it before jumping into the games that you're going to see, because I think this is going to be part of a series that I will be doing a bit in the future. Now, on this channel, the gameplay and the content is focused particularly at a mid-elo level, and I would say even like a low to mid-elo level, right? In my tier list videos, I will often specify things that I think actually still work at a mid-elo level that may not work at a pro level, where the gameplay is much more optimized, much more efficient, and cleaner, right? So mid-elo gameplay tends to look just a little bit different, right? Maybe not just a little bit different, but it does tend to look different at least than at the high level. And I would say mid-elo gameplay looks different than what even 1000 elo gameplay and below. Now, I also think of this channel as really a broader network of the Age of Empires community, right? Most, if not all of us, fall into the mid to low elo standings, and this is a nice place to go and talk about what's going on at the mid-elo level, think about things from that perspective. And I also want to point out the fact that we have a lot of other great people in the community as well. And in particular, right, there are a lot of good events that are being put on and put out there that are actually meant for a mid-elo audience. And so there's a tournament that just got started, actually, that I'm playing in myself. It's sponsored by AYRE Sports. You can see their overlay in the top right corner here. AYRE eSports, they have their Mid-Elo Arabia Series, and it's a really fantastic tournament. It's a fantastic community. I have a link to their Discord in the description of this video. I highly recommend that you check them out. They actually have some higher level work that they do as well, with some high level players, the names of whom, if you follow the pro scene, you'll be very familiar with. But this is an effort for them that they're putting out to focus on a more mid-elo player base. And I just think that that's so cool, and I would like to see more of that in the community. And I would like for this channel to follow some of those mid-elo tournaments, and that way we are keeping that discussion alive, we're keeping the community alive, and also getting that kind of content out there and encouraging players to play in mid-elo tournaments, and also hosts and organizers to go ahead and put them on. And so anyways, I want to show you, since I'm actually playing in this tournament, and I like playing in tournaments, and I haven't really shown this side of my gameplay to you all. I'd like to do that, to kind of start that in this video, and hopefully in subsequent videos in the future. So, right, this is the round of 16 in Division C of AYRE Esports Mid-Elo Arabia Series, right? I am the number 8 seed in this tournament, in this round of 16, and my opponent, Keldim, really cool guy, shout out to him, is the number 9 seed. All of the maps in this tournament are played on Arabia. AYRE Sports has a map pack on AOE 2, and this Arabia, it's pretty similar to the kind of Arabia that we've seen a lot, so there's really nothing interesting or new there to explain for you all. What I want to do first is show you the draft, right? So you can see this is a best of 3 series, and this was our draft, right? You can see that, right, I banned Britons, and my opponent banned Sicilians, right? I don't know if he scouted me a little bit on the ladder. Know that I really like to play Sicilians a lot. So if he did, kudos to him. That was well done, because I was planning on picking them. And you can see I take Japanese, Lithuanians, Mongols, and Malians, and my opponent takes Indians, Byzantines, Ethiopians, and Berbers. I really liked my draft here. As you can see, I'm going to start off with Japanese. They're a civilization that I'm comfortable with and enjoy. But, it's Arabia, so there's really not a civilization. Even if I didn't get any 4 of the civilizations I did, I think that I still would have felt pretty comfortable with 4 more civilizations as well, because there's just a lot of civs that work on Arabia. And I thought that my opponent had a really good draft as well. I think Indians are super strong. Byzantines are so flexible, and you can see that he's going to open with Byzantines here. Ethiopians can be a pain to deal with. Berbers, I think, are a little bit tricky in a 1v1 environment, but definitely if they get rolling, Berbers can be pretty difficult to stop. So let's go ahead here. I want to jump into the gameplay and actually just kick this thing off and get it started, right? Zoom out on the map a little bit and cast. And I want to start off respectfully, right, with my opponent first. And so my opponent, Keldim, is playing in the teal, and I think he has a great map, actually. I mean, you take a look at the north here. This is a really wallable map. There is some forward golds here, but if you can get walled off here, right? Nice main gold that's kind of off to the side. Nice back berries. Main stone in the back of the base. Even a nice back gold here, right? So playing as a Byzantines, right? This could be a really nice map to go ahead and get walled off. And we'll talk about strategies here in a second, right? Now you can see, right? We'll zoom out a little bit for my map. I actually think that I have a pretty good map as well. Nice back gold here. The forward berries right next to a hill is not something that I like. And that's something when I see it, I get a little bit worried about. And a decent map to wall off, though it is a little bit more open. I would have to spend a bit more wood here than my opponent, but I do have some nice back wood lines, and so that is kind of the trade-off. My opponent doesn't really have a close back wood line here, and so he's kind of forced to take wood at the front, but he has a map that's a bit easier to wall off, but I have the back wood lines. So all in all, I think I do like his map a little more, but we both still have pretty good maps. Now, thinking about the openings, right? As you can see, I am loyal to Stark's 20 pop minute arms build order. I actually have a video showcasing that on the channel, and so now I'm going to use it in some tournament gameplay, and we'll see how it goes. As you can see, I'm also luring in a deer, and my opponent, right, it's not clear to me just yet what he's going to go for, but I do want to take a look right here. He is walling early, and so he's playing as the Byzantines. Byzantines don't really get a good Dark Age eco bonus. You do get cheaper trash units in Feudal Age, which is pretty nice, but in terms of getting those early uptimes, especially against a civ like Japanese, which can be incredibly aggressive in the early game, that is something that you really got to deal with. And so a more defensive playstyle actually might be something that is really good for him. And given that we're already seeing some walls, that should be something that we might expect. As you can see, this openings here are pretty standard. Again, right, this is, I've talked about how mid-elo players often have their build orders down really nicely. And you can see here, right, we both have 1 second of TC idle time. Our idle eco is both under 2%. So we're actually doing a pretty nice job managing our economies and playing a pretty clean Dark Age so far. So again, that is something I think that's typical of the mid-elo gameplay. And as the game goes on, of course, things tend to get a bit more sloppy, right, even in Feudal Age. And we can see, right, my opponent here is going to go ahead and wall up. And so it looks like we're going to have a real clash of styles, right, which is why I actually think that this particular game is so interesting, because we have the Japanese, which are really set up to play games early and aggressively, because your eco bonus of having the cheaper resource camps, right, that really starts to taper off in its effectiveness in the later stages of the game. However, in the early game, you're getting some massive wood savings, right? Now, I've found my opponent's space here, so I know where things are going on, right? We take a look here, right? I saw the rhinoceros being eaten, so I know where his talent center is at, so I know where to avoid things. Now, if we do go to my opponent's vision, right, he's been hanging around a lot at home, so he actually doesn't know where I am. He really is. He's committing to this really defensive play style here, so we're going to have to see how that works out for him in that case. Now, you can take a look, right? We've clicked up to Feudal Age, and my opponent looks like he's a bit far away from getting there. Again, he's opting for the walls, going for this defensive playstyle, and I actually know what he's doing now. I can see the walls, know what he's going for, and so again, we're gonna have this really interesting clash of styles here, going for a really early build. We're talking 20 pop minute arms, versus an opponent who is walling up and hasn't clicked up yet. Looks like they will have the food to do so in a bit. And these walls are coming down. And I'm not going to lie, I'm really impressed in some ways with how well my opponent walled up. I mean, I think it's a bit easier of a base to wall up. But at the same time, I think it's also the case that, you know, getting walled by, minute 9, I mean, it's a pretty strong. Pro players make it sound, I think, a lot easier than it is, but I think it's a bit harder. Now, my opponent still hasn't clicked. It looks like he's about to click up. He's on his way, though I don't see his progress there yet, right? As I'm trying to snipe this villager, because I really, really want to keep him open here, but he is going to have absolutely nothing of that, right? And so it looks like he is going to be just absolutely and completely walled up now, right? And so this is going to get pretty tricky now. So I'm going to go ahead, right? I see an area here, want to break in, as my opponent has clicked up, and because he's in Dark Age, these Feudal Age walls, right, they go down very, very quickly. I mean, just look at that with the faster attacking Japanese men-at-arms, but no dice, right? He's actually going to go ahead, and he's going to get the quick walls behind it. Now, one of the things, going back and thinking about this, and again, trying to make this an educational video, I really wish, so I'm going to just take a look at the volume here and make sure that our volume here is pretty good. Okay, it looks like we're doing all right on volume. I really wish that I'd waited until I had an archer to go ahead and attack walls, because he might have not walled behind it. And even if I'd had just one archer, I maybe could have kept these houses from getting up as easily as they did. And he is just going all in on the defense, right? So these men-at-arms, this scout, right, are not going to be able to find any damage just yet. And so what I'm doing, right, I'm actually starting to get kind of nervous here that we're going to run into some difficulties, because he, judging from the uptimes, he looks like he's going for just a naked fast castle. And as we can see, that is exactly what he is doing. And he looks like he's going to have the resources here. So he got walled up, and I'm committed to Feudal Age aggression. So I really, really need to get in, and that's my plan. Now, fortunately, with the faster attacking men-at-arms, right, I should be able to do that. And I'm going to try to harass this woodline a little bit. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to find some palisade walls. I could go a bit farther north, but I actually choose to just come back down to this house. I should have maybe gone to this side, right, with my archers, but what I'm thinking is that actually it's just going to take a while for the archer to get there, and I feel like I'm on a clock now to do damage. And so what I did was I took this scout up here, kind of hoping that he'd see it and he'd send villagers up that way while I'm attacking down here. And so my opponent's clicked up, right? I can kind of look at the score and see that that's probably the case. I have 2 archers with fletching. So my opponent, right, again, in this clash of styles, my opponent, to keep me out of his base, right, because I'm trying to punish the naked fast castle here, he has to send villagers to repair this house. You can see, right, that the HP on this house, right, not looking so good. He's having to commit lots and lots of villagers to this, and he sends the weak villager away, which is super smart of him, by the way. It's obvious my opponent, right, is playing with a lot of awareness, but he's really having to commit here, and he loses a villager, right? So I've gotten some economy damage, but I just know that he's going to be up to Castle Age at some point soon, and he's basically sending, I mean, these are like hero villagers here for my opponent, who is going to actually lose 3 villagers to try to keep these men-at-arms out in order to get to Castle Age, right? And so clearly, right, I'm just interested in killing these villagers, and boom, we have a 4th one, and now it's going to be a 5th. So we have a 5 villager lead now, actually, on our opponent, and our opponent is in Castle Age, but we are in, and so I know I've killed a lot of villagers, so I know his eco is going to have to be a little bit behind, and now I'm scouting around, trying to look, And this is important right here, right? What do I see? I see that he's trying to get a barracks up, right? Okay, so for all my mid-elo players out there, you see this? This tells you something very important. This tells you that he doesn't have any knights that are sitting in a queue somewhere. He doesn't have any archers sitting in a queue. This means he doesn't have those buildings. And in a way, I kind of knew it because I did know about the blacksmith and the market, but he easily could have built a barracks behind his walls during the transition. He hasn't done that. So what I want to do is I actually want to pounce on this, as we're going to go ahead, get the game back going. I want to pounce on this here because as we have another villager go down, because I want to keep this barracks from getting up, because as long as it gets up, I know there's no stables and there's no archery ranges, and now we are really punishing the naked fast castle, and we're streaming units into the base. We're denying this gold, which is something we really want to do here. Now, take a look at this, right? My opponent is going for a second town center. Now, on the one hand, I think this is a really nice decision because it means that I can't just idle his town center, and now he has, as we lose this scout here, right? And then we lose a men-at-arms, right? So he's getting a little bit of this back. Just tossing men-at-arms away. Classic mid-elo maneuver right there. Trust me, it's all part of my strategy. But now he has two town centers, and we can't just, idle them all that easily. I do have a spearman here because one of the things I'm worried about in early Castle Age, I am worried that he's going to get knights on the field, and we're not quite ready to click up, but I haven't actually seen a stable yet. In fact, I know that I've denied a barracks, and I know that I'm in the process, right? I should be targeting this villager, but again, with just the one archer, that's something I probably could have paid a lot more attention to, is keeping that barracks from getting up. But I do know now that he has the barracks up, and so now I'm getting a little bit worried, but we're going to go ahead, click the Castle Age, and so I know that if I can just hold on for a little while longer, right, we are going to be okay. Now, my opponent's actually going for another town center, so he really wants to boom here, and this could be really scary because one of the things with Byzantines is that their Imperial Age is highly discounted, so it's very easy for them to get to Imperial Age, and so he's already much earlier to Castle Age than me with 3 town centers, right? We're kind of stuck playing this aggressively, and if we fall behind, then we could be in really rough shape. And plus with Byzantines, the thing you got to worry about is they really have a counter for just about everything, right? And so I know that he has a barracks up now, and this is a tricky situation, but we have caused a good bit of idle time. We have a lot of military, and he doesn't quite have military on the field. You can see that his economy, because he's trying to run 3 town centers, is being stretched to the limit. Now, here's a question that you want to ask. In this situation, would it have been better for him, right, to go ahead, stay safe behind his walls, have the barracks up, and then have gotten to a stable, right? That's the real question here. Could he have done that? Could he have had the resources to do that? Now, the stable is what I'm really worried about actually here, because my opponent is, even though he is going for a range, I'm very worried about it. Why? Because I'm worried that I'm going to run into knights right now, and he's going to have the resources to get a bunch of knights on the field, and I don't want to deal with that. Plus, we're playing this, we have to play this pretty aggressively. And so, one of the things I want to do is I'm actually transitioning here. I've brought a couple vills forward, and I'm transitioning to a pike siege play. I'm going to get these crossbowmen upgraded so I can snipe some villagers, be a nuisance, but if he makes knights, then I'll have the insane Japanese pikemen, and if he's making skirmishers, right, to deal with the crossbows, I'll have mangonels, and so I have really all my bases covered here, and I do have these crossbowmen left over. I have 16 of them, so we have a nice little platoon of crossbowmen to deal with picking off villagers and that sort of thing. So we are playing a heavy military approach, and you can see, right, I'm going ahead, I'm staying on 1 town center to do this, right? A mistake here for me, given what I'm trying to do, would be to go to my 2nd town center a bit too early because I wouldn't have the wood to go ahead and make things like mangonels, right? So you can see, getting a Vil pick, right? We have another villager down, right? Another villager down, right? As we have our platoon here running around. We're up to 10 villager kills, and now we're sieging this town center. We're going to get another mangonel out, keeping these pikemen here just in case, right? We have 2 archery ranges. My opponent is getting the military, and you can see, right, he does have 9 skirmishers, but, right, to make those skirmishers, as we catch him on the stone, this is a massive find here, right? This is why we're keeping these crossbows moving, right? And here's another mid-elo tip for all of us out there. I know I have to remind myself to do this a lot, right? But often you want to keep your army moving, looking for damage. If your army is just standing around at your base, or just hanging around outside of your opponent's base and is not finding any damage, then you're not getting any value out of it. And an army, really, think about it, these are resources that you've invested in. So the question is, what are you getting out? Is your army back home keeping you safe? If it's forward, is it getting villager kills, right? Is it, or heck, it could be as simple as keeping pressure on your enemy for that matter, right? So we have ourselves here, right? We are sieging this town center. We're staying mobile with our crossbowman army so we can try and see what's coming. And it looks like we have a couple of scouts that have been made. But again, we've been very mobile here. And well, now we've taken out a town center, right? We have now 3 mangonels, and now we can go and hunt these skirmishers. You know, as I'm going to go ahead, try and look to see if I can find any villagers here messing around or anything like that, right? 3 mangonels, especially at a mid-elo gameplay, as I accidentally kill one of my own villagers. That's pretty embarrassing. Right? But, right, even though killing my own villager, sometimes I could be my own worst enemy. Hey, we also take down these skirmishers, and we see the knight here, right? Going for the siege, but this is why we have the pikemen, right? We have the pikemen right here. Gonna go ahead, send us 6 HP hero villager, and now we're sieging this town center, and the score's looking pretty good in our favor. We have a nice military lead, right? We have units that are really covering all of our weaknesses here, actually. And I know that we have a lot of villagers here trying to take out this town center. We're both using the market, right? I'm trying to get to more town centers out here and stuff actually as well, so I can get a bit caught up in economy. Even though I know I've killed some villagers, I actually don't know how far ahead or behind I am. And with these massive mangonel hits, right, we just got a pretty big lead here, and opponent calls the GG, right? So GG to our opponent. Let's take a look at these statistics before coming back to the map here. Actually, let's return to the map and look at the map first, right? So you can see what we had here. We had a major clash of styles, right? Where my opponent wanted to FC, boom, get a big economy. And you might think that, you know, well, that's not the right play. But I actually think that this is a game where if my opponent had just had a little bit of different decision making in early Castle Age, I actually think he could have been set up to really go and actually counterattack my base. If he had said, gone for some knights, maybe 1 stable knights, I might have been able to supplement my archers with Japanese spearmen, and he might not have been able to have the upgrades on the knights, but at least he could have taken some pressure off of his base and maybe counterattacked just a little bit, right? So I actually kind of liked his opening there, and he did a really nice job of getting walled up, and these Byzantine buildings have so much HP. I actually think that it's a pretty good strategy, and it was a nice opening. The issue, though, right? The issue, I think, was he might have just tried to do it going FC and not making any military. Might not have been the right choice for him. If he had maybe, instead of going blacksmith market, if he had gone something like archery range and blacksmith and made a few of those cheap skirmishers to try to keep my archers from being able to deal with those villagers, I think that that might have been a better play for him. It might have slowed down his time a little bit, but he's still going to get to the next age much faster than me. So I actually think this is one of these games, even though I'm putting on a lot of pressure and doing a lot of aggression, I actually think that this is a game that is more that my opponent lost, actually, rather than me winning. Because I actually think that he was in a better position in some ways. He could have just transitioned and made a bit better strategy in sort of the middle parts of that game. Like I said, I think going for that archery range, and so that way keeping my archers from being able to just pick off villagers that are making houses, that I think would have paid off huge dividends and allowed him to get up, and I would have been stuck in feudal age for a bit. So something to think about. And I also think that once I cracked open the base and once I got in, that's where I think things did get a bit tricky. We got a lot of economy kills, a lot of dead villagers, and then when we put the pressure on, we really put the pressure on. So now let's go take a look at the statistics, right? Take a look at the military statistics. I mean, you see how the game plays out, right? We went highly aggressive in that way, had a lot of military on the field, right? Even though we were on 1 TC, we got so many economy kills, we definitely made up for it, right? Taking a look at our times, right? 20 pop men-at-arms of Japanese. Beautiful build order, right? We have a nice feudal time. A little bit of idle TC time, though, in feudal age, but actually not that much idle TC time in castle age. I think we kept the TC going pretty decently while we were doing that castle age aggression. And taking a look at the villagers, we actually wound up getting to a vill lead. That's much more due to killing villagers rather than having lots of town centers. So with that, right, we're going to return to the map here, right? We're going to go check our 1-0, and now we'll go check in to the next game. All right, so now, right, we're in our best of 3, right? So we're at match point, right? Jimmy James, I'm up 1-0. Now let's take a look at game 2. Again, right, we're playing on Arabia. And let's start off with my opponent here, right? My opponent here, I actually think it's a pretty difficult map. We have forward golds here. The back berries are nice. There's a decent wood line in the back, but there's a pond behind it. You never like to see that. It's a small pond, so it's not as bad as it could be. We have some nice trees here. The thing I do like about his map is that it's very close to the edge of the map, so it actually shouldn't be that difficult to wall up. And my opponent, of course, in the teal is playing as the Indians. Now, I'm not a big fan of my map, actually. Forward gold, also having forward berries as well. I do have an okay back wood line here. This wood line's not so bad either. It's not a bad map to wall up, but it's not great. So I think that the maps are a bit more even here, and the map, and both are not quite as amenable to walling up in this situation. So now I'm playing as the Malians. Now, this is a really interesting civilization matchup, and I saw from my opponent in the last game that he really likes to go, well, I've only seen one game, so I think, well, maybe he wants to go fast castle. Maybe he wants to try and boom again. I don't know, as I'm having just a devil of a time luring this deer in. But right now, I want to play what I know, and I have a good flexible civilization, and I thought about opening scouts here, but I just don't feel like with the Malians that I can do that better than Indians, and I'm a little worried about him opening scouts, playing as that civ. So I decide, right, that given that I'm going to stick to, right, we have 3 on wood here. I'm going to stick to a men-at-arms opening. However, right, with only 3 on wood, you might think that we're missing something, but you got to remember, Malian buildings cost less wood, right? So I want to go for a bit faster play here, right? My Dark Age is not anywhere near as clean as I was last game, so this is a bit sloppier game than the one we did play. And now we can see from my opponent here, right, that he does have the 4 on wood, which does lead you away from thinking that we're going to see a scouts play in this game. Now, thinking about the matchups long term, I do like Malians a bit long term in this, because I feel like Indians are, because they lack the night line, can be a little bit weaker to infantry, And the great thing about Malians is their infantry gain an extra pierce armor in each age. So normally with the Indians, I mean, honestly, I think that the Indians is a civ. I mean, I like Indians as a civ, and I have enjoyed playing them a good bit. But I also think it's the case that the civ just really doesn't work. It's kind of rare to see camels as an opening with Indians, and so much of the time you do see heavy cavalry archers as the play. But against a civ like the Malians, that's not going to work too well because of the extra pierce armor your longswords will get. So I have that in the back of my mind as something to go for, and longswords are also going to be very, very effective against camels as well. So I'm just kind of keeping tabs on my opponent right now, trying to see what he's going to go for. I see that he doesn't have anybody on the gold yet out here, as we eat a little bit of town center fire, which is not what I want to do. And we see, wow, look at these huge walls, right? I think that this would be the way to wall up. Let's take a look and see if he has that scouted. Yeah, so he doesn't have that part of his base scouted. And so he's going for these really long walls. That's a lot of wood to invest in. And I think that that is something of a mistake. I mean, this is a major league wall. That's not something I'm interested in. And so, all right. We're just gonna peace out here. We've seen a lot of his base. We know what his base looks like, right? We do see he has the 5 on wood. So I'm feeling pretty confident now, actually, as we're taking the scout fight and we're both fighting for higher ground. Because I saw 5 on wood, I'm fairly confident. I'm thinking that he has probably clicked up. It doesn't appear like that's the case. It looks like he's going for another build that's a little bit slower from this vantage point, which again might not be the worst play, given that he is going for the walls. But, well, he is going for loom. He's got that, and so he actually might be trying to click up here in a moment. Let's see what he does. Now, you can see that we're already on the way up, right? We'll have an okay, given the idle time, right, a little bit of idle time, we'll have an okay feudal age time, but we have men-at-arms already on the way, right? Scout is about half HP. It looks like our opponent's going to kind of go in for a middle-ranged build, right? Probably not a fast castle, but also not the fastest, most aggressive uptime. I actually don't mind that because, hey, if you're going to play a bit more defensively, right, then play a bit more defensively, right? But still invest into some feudal army to deal with what we have here. And it looks like he is going to get those walls. Really nice job there. And we'll zoom in just a little bit more. And look at the defense. I love the quick walling. This is very, very aware from my opponent here, right? He's just rebuffing us at all ends, right? I love to see it. Now, at home, we're preparing the archer follow-up. We have men-at-arms in, and we're just gonna do our best to rock and roll here. All right, so we're getting the archers going, and well, our plan is to cause a little bit of havoc, right? Which we definitely would have done right there. And now our opponent is up, and wow, it's gonna have a lot of resources. Part of that's the Indian bonus, saving a lot of resources, and well, right? Our opponent didn't wall into this area, and now he's making some defensive men-at-arms, but this is probably not the best play for him. And what I'm trying to do here is just keep him off of this gold. I'm going to attack this gold right here. And, well, we're going to get a little bit of fighting involved and going ahead, right? Doing some damage here. It looks like we're going to get 1 vill killed, 2 villagers killed, and a 3rd villager killed. And it looks like we're going to get a 4th. So that was major aggression, right? We now have a 4 villager lead, and even on top of that, right, we're creating a lot of idle TC time with our opponent and getting a little bit of help from our friends here, fighting against this men-at-arms, trying to draw it back. And all right, so we've gotten a lot of damage, right? And so I can see from the score, right, now part of the score is driven by the fact that our opponent, I don't think, has our opponent doesn't have a scouted. That's where a lot of the score difference is coming from, but it is also coming from the fact that we We swooped around. Again, talking about keeping your army moving, right? We kept the army moving. We didn't get bogged down. And we got ourselves some decent damage. Now, I'm trying to see if I can get a little bit damage on this wood line, because there's a lot of lumberjacks there, but these wood lines are just a bit too thick for the archers to target them. So this is a little bit of a failed attack from me, and well, I've let some idle town center time as I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. What I'm trying to do, I let some idle TC time slip back in, and so now the village lead has fallen back, and so it's a little bit, it's getting a little bit more even. And not only that, but we've actually allowed them to get the front part of that walled off. And well, our opponent is walled up yet again. You can see in the north, right? I'm also taking the time for this aggression to allow me to transition to walls as well. And now my opponent is making military and is going for the skirmisher play, right? So this is a little bit of an adaptation to what we saw in the early game. And guess what? I really have to just peace out here, right? We don't have any upgrades yet, and I definitely have, right? You can see fletching on my units, but still, without armor, it's still not a fight that I really want to take against skirmishers. Excuse me while I hydrate. Okay. So, nevertheless, right, so we're being pushed back, but I still feel like we're in an okay position. So, what am I thinking right now? Well, I'm thinking we're starting to get the resources to get back up, and I'm going to take a little bit of a fight here, actually, and go ahead, try and be a micro lord, right? Using the fact that I have fletching, and you know what? It's actually not a bad fight that we took there, right? Good KD, right? Maybe I should have taken that fight earlier, but he can still hang out behind his walls. So, but we rid ourselves of that army, and I'm starting to think about the future and what I want to transition into. Now, he's made skirmishers. So, I'm actually thinking here that if he's making skirmishers, and by the way, that's what I'm going forward. I want to see what kind of other army he has. Does he have other military buildings, right? So, taking a look at this scout here, right? I'm checking the scout and looking for the HP, right? I'd also recommend, hey, if anybody out there has not seen my top 10 ways to reach and stay above 1,000 elo, right? I highly recommend you check that out because I'm employing some of that here. Checking out that scout, the reason, even though that scout, right, that scout got away, but, you know, clicking on it, making sure that it is the same scout from before that has a little bit less HP because we had a bit of a scout fight going on, and making sure that he doesn't have any upgrades on it, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to check that out. And as you can see, right, I'm on the way up to Castle Age. The game has kind of slowed down here. And I'm deciding, since I'm seeing a lot of skirmishers, I am not seeing any upgrades on them because, again, when I'm playing this game, I'm investigating and interrogating these buildings and these units because I'm trying to see what he's up to. And because he's walled up, I can't really go down into his base, but I decided to just make the call. That, look, I'm going to do a night switch, even though I know he has camels. If he has camels of his own, I should be able to mix in my camels. And because Indian camels are really only getting the extra pierce armor in terms of doing more damage, I feel like I can mix in camels and it not be so bad, right? And still be able to take those fights. Or I could just transition to long swords, right? So, and long swords are also going to be a food gold unit. So it's one of those things, right? So we're taking a little bit of a fight here. Not so bad, right? We did lose. We have lost an archer or two, which is not something I want to do, just in case he decides to go with spears or pikes or something like that. I want to make sure that we are going to have units to help defend, and he is right. And one of the things that I do, even running away, clicking on these units, seeing what kind of upgrades they have, learning things about what my opponent's doing. You can see here, right? We have the stables up, and I actually have quite a bit of wood that I'm floating around here, signaling the second wood upgrade, and I'm going to go ahead and drop a town center, right? Because the last game, I could have fallen behind an eco, This game, my opponent has some skirmishers. He has some army. We've just lost our archer platoon, so we're not going to have those guys to support. So I'm thinking that I'm going to need some food eco to that way because, again, we're making knights here. Last game, we made primarily wood and gold units. Or if we're making food and gold units, whether it's longswords or knights, well, we're gonna need a lot of farmers, and so I'm gonna go ahead, try to get the economy to support a lot of production. Now, once again, my opponent is playing a really nice, really defensive game, and except this time, we're the ones who are up to Castle Age first, so I'm actually liking our position a bit better in this game, because I feel like in terms of the age and the technologies, we have a bit more control. We're trying to get in here, right? But these villagers, right, they're repairing this mining camp, and this is still good because we're keeping him from generating some gold, but I also know this really is a road to nowhere. He can just keep repairing that mining camp, and it's probably best to go find damage elsewhere, and that is exactly what we're doing, right? I know he has this wall here, and I know he has a big wall here. Plus, it's kind of out in no man's land. And so, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to wait until I had a group of knights. I had always kind of planned on going and attacking this wall. But with just one knight, it might be possible for him to get out and wall up. With a group of knights, we're going to be in a lot better situation. Now, he is playing Indians, and he's actually going to open camels, right? Camels do counter knights. However, we have a lot of knights. We have a good numbers advantage, and we're running in, and we're getting quite a few vill kills if these knights ever feel like they want to fight. And what I want to do is take these fights against the camels when I have the numbers and use that to advantage, so I'm reducing the bonus damage that I am taking from those camels. And I'm also, like with some of these knights, I really want to destroy the stable to keep him from even making camels in the first place. It looks like he does not have a stable anywhere else in his base. I don't really know that, but it's the only stable I'm seeing knights come from, so I'm assuming that's the only stable that's there, and well, that's what we're just going to go with, right? Trying to take these camels on as they come around. Hey, if villagers want to repair, that's fine. I'll also take the free vill kills, and guess what? I'm adding a camel into my army to deal with his camels, and so we're just going to try to use numbers wherever we can to try to reduce the fact that these camels have pretty good numbers here. And we're really doing a lot of damage on these buildings. Now these camels just keep coming out. It's very annoying, right? But we're going to lose some knights here actually. But we've killed quite a few villagers playing pretty aggressively here. And again, we still have the numbers though, right? So one of the things perhaps could have been done in retrospect for him was maybe wait till he had a bit more mass, but it probably wouldn't have worked there just because of the fact that, well, the stable would have just gone down and villagers repairing it would have gone down as well. So this is really interesting. So now, right, I know he's got this town center here. So knowing that he's got a town center, it's going to be difficult to raid, especially raiding under a town center with camels. I don't want to deal with that. So I'm thinking about counter units. And so what I want to do, let's go ahead and put some pressure, add some pikemen so we have something like knight pikemen in our army, and then also add some siege and put some pressure on this forward TC. Right? Our opponent is taking pretty hard into camels here. And meanwhile, we're running around with this knight army, and we just want to try and find damage. And we have +2 on these knights. This is actually a good fight to take under this town center. Even though it is fully garrisoned, we're going to pick up quite a few villager kills here to make it very worth it. And then just escape with the knights and go and try and find more damage. Because he's got a decent number of camels on the field. Still, he doesn't have numbers just yet. But I know that if he's making camels in the long term, let's just slow down his economy, get lots of villager kills, get a big lead, and then just transition to a different unit that camels are not going to be able to counter. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Basically just sacrificing this army. But look at how many eco KDs, right, we've had. We have gotten a lot of villager kills, and we are pressuring, right? We're pressuring this forward town center, and what I'm wanting to do here is I'm getting these barracks down because I'm planning on going for something like long swords and pikes. That should do very well with the camels. I've already got the siege. Camels hold up very poorly against pikemen. I can kind of fight under town centers with Mali and pikemen anyways, because they're going to have, right? They have two base pierce armor because of the civilization bonus. They're going to have more, but as you can see, right, my opponent, who is super cool, by the way, I had a lot of fun actually setting him up, setting these games up with him, and I had a lot of fun playing the games. And you can see, right, we do get the 2-0 win in this round of 16. He was super nice. I wish him the best, and I hope that we're able to play against each other in the future, whether it's in a tournament or on the ladder. And hey, maybe I hope we could play sometime as well. If he sees this video at some point and wants to reach out and play some team games, I always love playing team games. So, and so that's the set, right? So we won 2-0. It's, you know, it's nice to get a win, but it's really just fun playing the game and seeing the strategies and my and having a nice quality opponent to play against. Now this is a round of 16, so as the number 8 seed, right, winning, you can deduce from that, if you know anything from bracket tournaments, that when you advance from the round of 16, usually you wind up playing the winner of a 1 versus 16 seeded matchup. I can confirm that I am up against the number 1 seed in the my division of the tournament, at least. So it should be a really fun game, or a fun set of games, and I'm going to do my best, and I will be posting those recordings as well when those games have happened and the time is right for that. So I haven't played those games yet, and so but I will post them, and I'd like to focus on this tournament concept, and also maybe even exploring some other mid-elo tournaments. If there are some, and I will ask you guys in the comment section, if there are some cool mid-elo tournaments out there that you would like to see some game cast of, and go into that kind of environment, let me know down in the comment section below, and who, you know, perhaps if you can, you know, point me in the right direction of who to reach out to. I'm really happy to do so, to talk and have those kind of conversations. And so because again, we're part of a community here, and I really want to support the work that the organizers of these mid-elo tournaments, the work that they do, because oftentimes it can be kind of a thankless job, and it takes a lot of work to organize a tournament at any skill level. So with that, I'm going to go ahead in this video. If you had fun watching this, go ahead, hit that like button, and we'll see you guys in the next video coming out. And if I don't see you then, I'll see you out there on the ladder. Peace.